We're continuing on Shecharu Charachaim, on Siman Ayin Hey is where we're holding, and Seif Bet is on Daf Kuf Chet Amud Bet of the regular prints of Mishna Berurah. Se'ar shel isha shtarka lechasot asur likrot kenegdo. So we spoke about tefach be'isha erva, that a tefach of a woman's body is considered something that's immodest when it comes to saying Shema in front of it, saying bracha in front of it. How about a hair of a woman that's uncovered? Now we know a Jewish woman is supposed to cover their hair, and Kisui Rosh, whether you do it with a sheitel, not the sheitel, was something that we're going to be discussing maybe in just a moment. But a hair of the woman, that she usually covers, and that's going to be very essential now. Asur likrot kenegdo. It's asur to read Kriyat Shema, or for that matter, saying Divrei Torah or brachot in front of it, and says the Rama, afilu ishto, even if that woman is your wife, aval betulot, but the not married girls, shedarkan lelech pruot rosh, that they go with their hair open, mutar. It is mutar to say Shema in front of them, because that you always see them like that, right? So there's no hirhur, because you're always used to seeing a person like if always is covered and now one time it's uncovered, that's more provocative. But if this person, I always see them like this with their hair open, so then that would be mutar. So this, of course, begs the question, how about if a woman is obligated to cover their hair because she's married, but she's not frum, so she's not she's not that frum, she's not covering her hair. And I always see her like this. We always, as a community, see her like that. Is that now equivalent to a woman that's not married? And therefore, it will be mutar to say Shema. And we will say, well, it's her problem that she's not covering her hair. She'll get an avera every time, but it's not going to be more provocative than a regular not-married woman that is uncovering her hair all the time. Hence, it will be mutar for us to say Shema in front of it, right? Well, do we say that, or do we say that no, because she has to cover her hair always, it becomes an erva, and even if she doesn't care about that halacha, we care about it, and therefore it would be asur, right? That would be the debate. Now, Chacham Obadiah and Mishna Berurah, they hold that it would be meikar adin. Well, Obadiah says meikar adin would be mutar, because she never covers her hair, and you used to always seeing her. So if the other parts are completely covered, you have no erva. Otherwise, the hair will be not an erva in that case, right? Or for a person that their wife never at home covers, right? So many women, based on the Gemara in Masechet Yuma, Daf Mem Zayin on page 47, the Gemara there says there was an individual called Kimchit. This woman had 7 children, and all of the children, every single one of them, got to serve in the highest office possible. Tremendous, like a very unusual, statistically impossible. And they asked, they said, well, what's with you? How did you merit from a simple family? You didn't know, no pulling any strings or nothing, and you became like this. Every child, every single one of them, to have one special child, 2 special, well, every single one without fail to get to serve in the highest office in Klal Yisrael. And she says, because I was so careful with my tzniut, with the mindfulness of Hashem. We just spoke about the parasha now, but with mindfulness of Hashem, and I was so careful in my modesty, even in my home, even when nobody was there. The language of the Gemara is korot beti, even the walls of my house never saw my hair, and so on and so forth. So some people are very careful because of that Gemara, and also because of Zohar HaKadosh in Parashat Shemot and Daf Gimel on page 3. Gemara there says that tremendous bracha comes, and a person that's careful to cover their hair, even one strand of hair should not be seen, and so on and so forth. The Zohar HaKadosh is very specific about this mitzvah of Kisui Rosh, and says tremendous things about doing it, brachot, and unfortunately, the opposite as well, that someone that is not careful takes away the bracha from their family, and their children would not be chashuv and would not be important in the generation, and would not be successful, blah, blah. And there are a lot of important things have been said, so hence explains the minhag of why some people are so specific about this mitzvah of Kisui Rosh, even at home. But halachically speaking, at home, she could be uncovered. So if someone is always uncovered at home, the hair is uncovered at home, so then the husband is always used to seeing it like that, it will be fine for us. But if she's always covered at home, and one time she's not, so then even the husband himself, even though that it's her husband, it would be considered a provocative scene that would not be mutar to say brachot or shema in front of it. Now, we're going to discuss the non-religious people in just a moment in the Mishna Berurah, but again, as we mentioned, Chacham Obadiah is of the opinion, and the majority of the poskim is that they are of the opinion that it will be mutar. So says the Mishna Berurah, this that we say, se'ar shel isha, hair of a woman, ve'se'ar shel ish, how about a hair of a man? Afilu shel erva, even the hair of the private area. If the erva itself is not exposed, the hair is not considered erva in that way. We already spoke about the kiss that would be considered erva according to the Mishna Berurah. This is where it gets interesting. That she usually covers. Says the Mishna Berurah, even if she never covers or usually doesn't cover, rak b'shuk velo b'bayit u'bechatzir, and she doesn't cover at home or in the private courtyard, but she only covers it outside in the public, mikol makom bichlal ervahi, still is considered erva lekule alma, according to everyone, says the Mishna Berurah, afilu bebayit. Even at home, it will be considered erva. Ve'asur sham likrot nikda, and it will be prohibited to read in front of it. Im nitgalak tzadmen, if a little bit of him is exposed. Now, the woman that you don't have any hirhur about her, for instance, imagine a 120-year-old woman, ugly, Genesis book of records of ugly people, right? Is that mutar or asur? So the Kaf Chaim writes, even that is asur to read in front of her, or bichlal ervahu, and it's considered erva because this is this is a rabbinic law. This area of halakha is a rabbinic prohibition, and Chachamim, in all of their gezerot, all the enactments of Chachamim, they did not differentiate between details, because then the whole thing is not going to stand. So when they made a takana, they don't read in front of a woman that is her hair is exposed and so on and so forth. They did not differentiate between how pretty she is, how old she is, how young she is. All of them are asur. Now, the Kaf Chaim writes about the hair of a person's wife, that Maran Shulchan Aruch also holds, like the Ramah, that there's no difference between the wife and any other woman, and therefore it will be asur to read in front of it. But if a person already did not notice this, was not mindful, and read Shema in front of the hair of a woman that was exposed, Chacham Obadiah writes that b'di'evet, the person is yotze. You don't have to go back and say Shema again, and Kaf Chaim also paskins the same way. Now, why is that? The Chacham writes because many Rishonim hold that the isur of reading Shema in front of the hair of a woman is not asur at all. There's no isur in front of hair of a woman. We don't paskin like it. And even though the Maran Shulchan Aruch paskins that there is a problem, and he was machmir in this, it's only the chatchila. But the evid that you already read Shema, you could rely on those Rishonim who say it's not necessarily a problem. Now, reading Shema in front of the hair exposed from a different woman, the Kaf HaChaim writes, if you are a woman and you're reading in front of another woman, it's mutar. Because again, remember, the whole problem is that this is, thought-provoking, it's provocative, it's something that triggers. But us men, we're weaker creatures. We have the triggers. Like a woman, to a woman is not necessarily anything that is considered provocative. It's not erva be'etzim. It's not that a woman cannot read in front of the erva of another woman, right? That would be asur because it's literally erva. This is only a rabbinic level because of hirhur, and therefore, says the Kaf HaChaim, another woman could read in front of the hair exposed of her friend, and that would not be a problem because there's no hirhur. We're not concerned about hirhur. Now, the Mishna Berurah that said, afilu im nitkala ketzat mehen, that even if the hair is a little bit exposed, the Mishna Berurah seems to indicate that reading in front of the hair of a woman is, even if it's less than a tefach, even if it's a little bit of it is exposed, it will be a problem. And on this, the Or Letzion agrees with it. He also writes that even if you have less than a tefach of a hair from a woman exposed, it will become a problem, and you can't read in front of it. But then the Mishnah Berurah says, "V'da'od da'afilu im derech isha zu v'chaverotea be'oto makom lelech begilui harosh." Here is where the Mishnah Berurah is machmir against Chacham Obadia, against Aruch HaShulchan, against Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, and many others that we mentioned. And Mishnah Berurah holds, even if this is a non-frum woman, this is Chafetz Chaim, even if it's a non-frum woman, somebody that doesn't cover her hair, still it will be asur. Says the Mishnah Berurah, we'll read it together. Even if this woman always, her friends, herself, always go begilui rosh with uncovered hair, even in the public place, bashuk, kederech haprutzot, asur, still will be asur, and you can't read Shema in front of it. Uchmo le'inyan gilui shoka, says Mishnah Berurah, just like we discussed by shok be'isha erva. Anything that essentially is considered erva, we don't care about the custom of the society. If the custom of the society is to go with mini skirts, that doesn't make it mutar. Still considered that they're shocked, their legs are showing, it's considered erva, even if everybody does it. So says the Mishnah Berurah, same would be with the hair. If they have to halachically cover it, and they're not covering it, it's considered erva, and that is a problem. The asur b'chol gavni, v'chanal v'seif katan bet. Because halachically they are obligated to cover their hair, mitzad hadin, therefore it will become asur. Okay, fine. So on this, as we mentioned, many poskim disagree with the Mishnah Berurah, and they say mikar hadin, technically speaking, if she never covers her hair, it's not considered erva because the whole thing is because of hirhur, and this does not trigger anything, or is not considered enough of a trigger. It's going to be like a regular girl that's not married. So paskins Harav Ovadia, so paskins the Aruch HaShulchan, Michal Epstein, who was the halachic authority before the Mishna Berurah came along. The Mishna Berurah, prior to Mishna Berurah, was a sefer called Aruch HaShulchan. He's one of the 4 only people who wrote halachot on the entirety of Torah, even halachot that are not applicable nowadays. The halachot of Beit HaMikdash and Korbanot and all those tremendous personality, the Rav Novardok, and he also is mekel, he's also lenient when it comes to this one, and so now on the side of the machmirim, right, who hold this is asur, the Rishon LeZion, Mordechai Eliyahu alav hashalom, he holds that is asur, right? But Ben Ish Chai and the Kaf HaChaim, they write that if the way that the woman dress in that particular place, this woman herself always is going around without hair covering, then even though that she's doing an avera every time that she goes in public like that. Every single time she's doing something wrong. But nevertheless, when it comes to you in relation with her, can you say Shema? Says the Ben Ish Chai, yes, you can. Says the Kaf HaChaim, you can. Same with Chacham Obadia, Aruch HaShulchan, Rav Moshe Feinstein, and many others. Even though that they are transgressing a biblical level isur. It's a biblical level for a woman to cover her hair. The Gemara in Ketubot clearly says that it's a biblical level. It's considered dat Moshe, and Mikol Makom, and Isur Likro Kenegdo. But at the end of the day, for you, it's not going to be Asur to do it in front of them. And as we mentioned, this is the consensus of the halachic poskim. Ben Zion Abba Shaul also paskin that is the Ben Ish Chai, the Kaf HaChaim, Chacham Obadia, within the Sephardi camp and within the Ashkenazim, also the Aruch HaShulchan, Rav Moshe Feinstein, and many others as well. No, that nobody disagrees that's biblical. Everybody agrees that a woman, Mina Torah, Midoraita, has to cover her hair. Right? But if she doesn't, so she's doing something wrong, right? But can I say Shema in front of her when she always looks like this? So that's not a trigger. It's not that today she looks provocative because she always covers and now she's not covered, right? She always looks like this. So Mishna Berurah says is machmir. Mishna Berurah says you can't say Shema in front of it because she's doing something wrong. You can't do it. So says also Mordechai Eliyahu, right? But majority disagree with that, and the consensus is like the majority that will be mutar for me to say Shema in front of her, even though that she's doing something wrong on a biblical level.
Right, but it's not explicitly. I'm talking about just the right. It's not explicitly in the Torah.
It actually is, but that's for a different talk.
It just says that she said.
Yes, that is pretty explicit. If you, yes, you're not getting into this.
The consensus that it's all right.
There's no machloket on that. No, nothing that would be considered a machloket, right? So it says the Mishna Berurah. Somebody wrote a few years ago. I'm not going to mention his name. He wrote a almost 100-page, 98 pages of an essay and published it in one of the journals to try to say that perhaps it depends on the minhag and so on and so forth, but he missed Mishnayot and Gemarot, even though that he's like a doctor and he's a learned individual, but it was such a disgrace, the piece that was written and published publicly in Klal Yisrael in one of the journals. But there's nothing that you could call it a machloket. So it's pretty simple, straightforward, and open and shut.
Just one more question. Isn't it true that a lot of big debating throughout history, their wives?
That's not correct at all. Everybody throughout history covered their hair, aside from, for some strange thing, in Lithuanian Jews, only in Lithuania, it became, and this is, you have to understand, this is before they had Beis Yaakov. The girls were very much not educated, and there was no one that was willing to do it because the woman had gone down the drain. I will tell you, without mentioning names, that two of the Gedolei Ador in Lithuania, the biggest names you could find, right? One of them was on a mission in a different city before Rosh Hashanah, and he got stuck there at Rosh Hashanah, so he couldn't go back to his own town. He was Rav of town, but he was stuck. What do you want? So he stayed with the Rav of this town that he was there, and Leil Rosh Hashanah, he comes into the Suudah, and there's nobody home. It's him and his friend, the Rav of town, sitting. They're doing the Seder of Rosh Hashanah together, right? The apple, the Simanim, all the things. Tomorrow morning after Musaf, they come home. The whole family is there. The wife is there. The girls are there, and the wife was mitnasel. She apologized, saying, "We weren't there." Last night there was this theater that came to town, and we all went. Can you imagine the wife of the Gadol Ador? It was horrible situation for women. They were drawn after the goyim, and unfortunate. And that's why you have to understand that one of the figures in Klal Yisrael who really, really made perhaps the biggest difference in the direction of Klal Yisrael was Sarah Shneur. Sarah Shneur, who didn't have children, was not blessed with children, and she started the movement of Beit Yaakov with the bracha of the Ger Rebbe and so on. She literally changed the tide on the education and hence the conduct of a Jewish home, educating the women and the future wives of Klal Yisrael, who the mothers are, sets the tone for the family. Who your wife will be, Bezrat Hashem, sets the tone for the family. And that is extremely important, and that's why Baruch Hashem, we don't hear about these things. So you're correct. For a few decades, you had this problem. Never, ever. It's explicit Gemara and Shulchan Aruch, and it's like there's nothing to talk about. So anyhow, this is the opinion of the majority of the poskim, that even though the woman is not covered and she's doing something wrong, but for you, it's not considered enough of a trigger to be asur, so hence it will be mutar to read in front of her. This is again one of those heated machlokets which you have on one hand, the machmirim, Mishna Berurah is, you have to understand the Mishna Berurah is a tremendous weight in the Klal Yisrael, and he is machmir, but nevertheless in this one, we have the majority that is lenient. It doesn't mean that you should choose to do that. Yeah, if you're not in a situation that you could turn around and read it without hurting anyone's feelings, so do that. Be machmir for the Mishna Berurah. But if you're in a situation that the scenario calls for sensitivity and so on, it will be mutar. Bezrat Hashem will continue this in the days to come.